What's up YouTube, welcome back to another Genshin video. Today I'm going to be dropping a Venti guide for you guys. Venti is pretty easy to build, and he's also really OP if you haven't already known. He's just swells up everything into a black hole and just does so much damage. I don't remember the specific name, but I will put his comment up on screen. He asked for a Venti guide, so I'm here to deliver. So yeah, let's just get the show on the road. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let's do this. For those who don't know, Venti is an animal archer, and in order to ascend him, he needs the hurricane scenes from the animal hypostasis, Cecilia's, and slime materials. He's also the character that 90% of the people who played this game thought it was a girl at first, including me. But anyway, let's get right into his talents. I'm not going to be talking about his normal attacks in this video because I'm going to just be focusing on support, but you can do some pretty cool things with main DPS Venti, but it just takes a lot more investment, so I'm just going to be talking about support in this video. So his elemental skill is Skyward Sonnet, and if you press it, it just sends out a gust of animo that will do AoE damage and push enemies up into the sky. It's pretty good to get some animo particles and to just stun some enemies. But if you hold it, it'll actually do a huge animo AoE around you, and when it's done holding, it'll create a wind current right under you so you can pull out your glider and glide around. The hold ability is mainly used just for traveling, which I do a lot if I need to get somewhere. I just don't know how to get up there. I just use his hold ability for traveling to get up in places. And his press is mainly used just for elemental particles. Then we have his elemental burst, Wind's Grand Ode, which is just basically a giant black hole. It'll do a giant AoE that'll suck in a whole lot of enemies. I'm pretty sure this is the best ability to group up enemies. And of course, since it is Animo, it does have elemental absorption, which can swirl Hydro, Pyro, Cryo, and Electro. Sadly, it can't swirl Geo, so it doesn't really work well with mining long. So if you are going to put him up with any characters, you might want to stay away from Geo characters. But other than that, he can be put on basically any team with this. The scalings on Venti's burst might seem really low, but trust me when it's not, because that 52.6% pops off so many times. Like, you'll get so much out of it. And that additional elemental damage percent, when you swirl another element, just stacks on top of that swirl damage and just goes crazy. And Venti's burst energy cost is actually 60, so it's not too expensive, but not too cheap either. But you do get a lot of free energy with one of his passives, which I'll tell you about later. But yeah, this is definitely the best ability for Venti. If you want any talent priority to see which one you want to level up first, for support Venti, you definitely want to level up his burst and then his elemental skill. His burst is just actually insane. His first passive is Embrace of Winds, which is actually after holding his elemental skill, it will create the wind current that I told you about earlier. Now his second passive is actually the crazy one because it actually regenerates 15 energy for Venti after his elemental burst ends. So it's actually really easy to get energy with your Venti. And then on top of that, the element that is absorbed, the characters that have the corresponding element will also get 15 energy. So if you swirl some Pyro and you have a main DPS Diluc, the Diluc will also gain 15 energy for free after Venti's burst ends. So it's actually extremely good. And then his last talent just decreases the stamina consumption of gliding, which is always a nice bonus if you're traveling a lot. So yeah, Venti's talents are kinda really OP, and these talents make him the best grouper upper in the game. So if you do have Venti and are struggling with a part that has a lot of mobs, use Venti and it will just swell him up really easily. Now let's just quickly go over Venti's constellations. His constellations are pretty good, but none of them are really needed just because how good base Venti is. So if you don't have any of these constellations, do not worry about it. Your Venti will still shred like crazy. His first constellation just turns his charge shot into a crossbow that shoots out 3 arrows. It's not really that important, it's kinda useless to be honest. His Constellation 2 is where his elemental skill decreases the opponent's animo res and physical res by 12% for 10 seconds. So that's actually a really good point right there as well. But then also, while they're in the air, they suffer from an additional 12% resistance decrease while they're airborne. So this Constellation is really good at just decreasing the elemental resistance and doing a lot more damage for your Venti or possible other animo units you are using. And this is where you're going to start seeing a pattern where basically all of his constellations just decrease animal resistance of your opponents. So basically all these other constellations are just basically damage boost. His Constellation 3 increases the level of his elemental burst, which is always great because his elemental burst is the best part of his kit. Constellation 4 is when Venti picks up an elemental orb, he achieves a 25% animal damage bonus for 10 seconds. Which once again is just really good because he gets more damage. Constellation 5 increases the level of his elemental skill. And then his Constellation 6 is people who get hurt by his elemental burst have the animal res decreased by 20%. And the corresponding element that the burst absorbs will get that element's resistance decreased by 20% as well. So once again, it just decreases resistance, like many of the other constellations, so it's just a huge bump once again. And that's basically all for its constellations. Trust me when I say you do not need any of these. It's completely fine to have a CZ or a Venti like I do. You will still see extremely good results with minimum investment, so you guys do not have to worry. Now let's take a look at Venti's artifacts, but it's honestly really straightforward. I do not know what to tell you, but you just have to get 4-piece Viridescent Venerware. There's like no other option. Viridescent Venerware is one of the best sets in the entire game. It gives you more animal damage bonus, increases will damage, and increases elemental reses of the element of fuse by his wills by 40% for 10 seconds. This like, I don't know, there's just not much else you can do. This is the definite best set for Venti and basically any other animal user you have. I know some of y'all might be thinking Emblem of Seventh Fate is also good. I mean, it could be really good, but just the amount of damage and supportment you can get out of Viridescent Venerware is just actually way better. Cause with this set, you boost your Venti's damage by a crap ton, and then you can also boost your other character's damage. So my top priority for you for artifact sets is Viridescent Venerware. But if you don't have a 4-piece Viridescent, I guess you could go 2-piece Viridescent, 2-piece Wanderer's Troop. Since Wanderer's Troop does give you more Elemental Mastery, which Venti really needs, because Elemental Mastery got a huge buff back when the Golden Apple Archipelago came out. So this Elemental Mastery is a good boost for your Venti, and then also the 2-piece Viridescent gives you animal damage bonus. But once again, I definitely recommend you try to get Viridescent Venerware 4-piece. Now the main stats for your artifacts you want on Venti is just Elemental Mastery. You want Elemental Mastery on Circlet, Goblet, and Sands. If you just massively stack Elemental Mastery, your Venti will do amazing damage. Don't worry, I know this artifact 0, I know this animal damage bonus, I know this is crit rate, and it's still 0. But trust me when I say my Venti still does a lot of damage with almost no investment and completely wrong artifacts. Cause I know I just said Elemental Mastery is key, but I literally haven't gotten one Elemental Mastery Viridescent Venerware piece since the beginning of this game. So don't come at me, but just listen to what I have to say. Listen to my voice, not to the screen. So you want to put Elemental Mastery on your Sands, your Goblet, and your Circlet. Animal damage is good as well, but Elemental Mastery is just a little bit better. Not that Elemental Mastery scales with your levels until level 60, so I do definitely recommend you get Elemental Mastery instead of Animal Damage bonus. But if you don't have an Elemental Mastery main stat piece that has good substats, then Animal Damage bonus is also good as well. And for your substats on your artifacts, you want to get Elemental Mastery, Energy Recharge, and then crit rate and crit damage after. But definitely take massive priority over Elemental Mastery. Trust me, the more Elemental Mastery you have on your Venti, the better. It will just increases damage by way more. Just to recap, the main set I want you to get is a 4-piece Viridescent Venerware, but the budget option, if you don't have the correct artifacts, is 2-piece Viridescent, 2-piece Wanderer's Troop. And then for main stats, you want Elemental Mastery in all of them on your Circlet, Goblet, and your Sands. And then for substats, you want Elemental Mastery, Energy Recharge, and then crit rate, crit damage. And yeah, that's basically all for the artifacts. Really simple, really easy. Once again, he takes low investment because as you can see, these artifacts aren't that leveled up at all. And he still does a crap ton of damage, so you guys will see in the showcase. Now time to move on to weapons for your Venti. The overall best 4-star weapon is definitely the Stringless. The Stringless is amazingly good for Venti because it gives you Elemental Mastery, which Venti really needs, and then it increases his Elemental Skill and burst damage by 24% at Refinement 1, which increases as you get more refinements. So if you have a Stringless, I definitely recommend you put it on your Venti. It gives you such a good substat, and its passive is just amazing. But if you don't have the Stringless, there's a weapon that everyone can get called the Favonius Warbow, which everyone gets for free super early on to the game, so you are guaranteed to have this on you. This is also a good choice for Venti if you don't have the Stringless, because the crit hits can give you a chance to get some elemental particles to your Venti, and it has a pretty good substat of Energy Recharge, which is pretty good to run on Venti so it can spam his Elemental Burst, because its Elemental Burst is his pride and joy. Now the Windbloom Ode isn't actually an entirely bad choice for him either, so if you did play during the event where we got all of this for free out of Refinement 5, it does have an Elemental Mastery substat, which of course is great for Venti, and then after using his Elemental Skill, it will increase his attack by 32% for 6 seconds. So if you use his Elemental Skill and then Burst in conjunction, then he'll get that attack boost for 6 seconds of his Elemental Burst, which is always great. So definitely the best 4-star weapons are the Stringless, Favonius Warbow, and the Wind Blue Load, but I would take priority for the Stringless if you have it. Now I don't know much about 5-star bows, since I do only have the Almost bow, but I know the elegy for the end is the overall extremely best weapon for Venti. Although it does have a substat of energy recharge, its passive does gives you a lot of elemental mastery on top of that as well. Its whole entire passive is basically a Bible chapter, so I'm not going to read it all, but basically all you need to know is that it gives you a crap ton of elemental mastery. So if you do have elegy for the end, it's definitely the best 5-star choice for your Venti. And that's basically it for your Venti. Just to recap, the best 4-star bow for Venti is the Stringless, and then following up is the Favonius Warbow, and then the best 5-star bow is the Elegy for the end. Now the best teams for Venti can honestly just be any team because he just fits to so many team comps, but honestly I'd say any teams besides the main Geo team. I am a Ningguang main, so I have tried out Venti along with Ningguang multiple times. You just can't reliably put on element into Venti's burst, so if you're doing a main DPS Geo build, I don't really recommend you put in your Venti, but honestly any other team building you can put your Venti into very easily. For example, this team right here, I put in the Luke and Xingqiu so they can do the main damage. And then if I use Bennett and Venti, I can make Venti swell up Pyro, which procs off his just a very rare 4-piece and makes Pyro do more damage. And then I pop off the Elemental Burst, and then my Diluc and Xingqiu can do massive damage, and then my Diluc's damage is increased by even more based on if Venti swells up Pyro or not. And then use Diluc's Burst to hit him while in the sky, because this build actually does have a pretty big hitbox for the sky. So it's actually a really good combination. The next team you could also put him in is an Infinite Freeze build, kind of like Morgana. Pretend this Zarya is either Ayaka or Ganyu because I do not have any of them. So just, you got to use your imagination a little bit. But this is an insanely good Infinite Freeze build that I see a lot of people running. You use Mona, Ayaka, and Diona to just pluck off Hydro and Cryo and freeze them up. And you can use Venti to swell up the Cryo or Hydro, and then Infinite Freeze everyone into Venti's Elemental Burst, and it just does so much damage, it does so much crowd control, no one can attack because they're all frozen permanently. It's just a really good team. I could go on and on about how you can just put Venti in any team, but you probably just get the gist of it. If your team needs help clumping up a lot of enemies, or with some elemental resistance shred, then put Venti in that team, and he will do amazing. Unless it's a main DPS Geo team, which I usually win, so it's kinda sad for me. But I know a lot of you guys don't want main DPS Geo teams, so if you need help with any content and you have Venti, you just put them in there and it'll do wonders for you. And yeah, that's basically all for the team building. I think it's time to put my Venti to the test and show you guys just how good he is, even with my doo-doo artifacts and low artifact levels and low investment. Yeah, it's not really the best, but you guys will still see how well he does at his job and how amazing he can actually be. Okay, so we're gonna start this thing up. I'm gonna get some particles for my teammates. And then I'm gonna make sure I do swell up the Pyro, because I want to swell up Pyro just so the Vayner Rare pops off the Pyro and not the Pyro. So I can see a swell up Pyro, and now my Diluc's doing mad damage. And you see all those numbers of Pyro and Animo right there? It swells up so much and so much better. And there we go. And look, my Venti has his elemental burst basically right after his other one already ended. And just to show you guys, my Venti has crit rate 15, crit damage 67, which doesn't really matter on your Venti since you do want to stack as much elemental mastery as you can. And then my energy recharge is actually only 158 on my Venti, so it's not even that insanely high and you can already get it off cooldown. And in conclusion of this video, Venti is obviously one of the best animal units in the entire game. He is the best animal unit for grouping up enemies, and he does a lot of damage with his elemental burst. So if you do have him and just haven't decided on building him yet, I do recommend you build him because he does make the game a lot easier and allows you to do a lot more damage and group up enemies way quicker. There are also many options for your Venti as well, and he requires low investment as you can see from my dog water artifacts and my low level talents, and uses a free to play build like the Favonius Warbow so everyone has it and everyone can use it. So yeah, that's basically all for today's video. Hope you guys now know what weapons, artifacts, talents to level up, and teams to put your Venti in. And I really hope this video did help you out. So yeah, that's basically all. I'll see you guys in the next video.